All right, the last section here of this unit. So in this unit, we started by talking about taxonomy in general and why we classify things, how we name things, the different groups of taxon that we use. When we talked about the domains and the kingdoms, just went over sort of their very general characteristics. And so the last thing we need to do today is talk about a tool that scientists use that is part of sort of taxonomy. And it's a tool that's called a dichotomous key, or it's sometimes called a taxonomic key. And what it is a tool that helps you to identify an unknown species. So if you had some unknown organism and you wanted to know what it was, what species it is, you could follow one of these dichotomous keys and it would help you to figure out what it is. Scientists really use these. These are a few I had to use in college. So this one, this big thick book, is part of it is a key that helps you identify fish, the inland fish in New York State. And so if you look in this, it's got a bunch of steps you could follow, and it'll help you. If you had a fish in your hands, you can follow, and it'll tell you what kind of fish it is. This one is a key to fruits and twigs. So you go grab a twig off the ground with no leaves on it, bring it back, follow through the steps in this, and it'll tell you what kind of tree it came from. This one is one of Manual of Vascular Plants of Northeast United States and Adjacent Canada. This is a book I had to use in a botany class that I took. We had to go collect 10 specimens from around Vermont, mount them, identify what type of plant they came from, and you do that partially using a key that you would find in this book. So keys allow you to identify unknown species. We're just going to use some pretty simple ones, not big, thick ones like these. For example, we have some sea creatures here. And we could use a dichotomous key to help us. If you didn't know what these things were, obviously we know what most of these things are, but we could use a key to help us. So what you do, a dichotomous key is just a whole set of two statements. What you need to do is you look at your unknown object or species, and you read the two statements, and you decide which one applies to it, and then you follow what it says. For example, if we're looking at this creature, this sea creature here, we start always at the top of your key, number 1. 1A, it says tentacles are present. 1B, tentacles are absent. So in this one, tentacles are present, obviously. So we follow, it says go to 2. Does it have 8 tentacles or more than 8? Has 8, tells us this is an octopus, obviously. Okay? So we follow that, and if we didn't know this, just by knowing some simple characteristics, we can figure out what it is. All right, let's go with this thing. Again, tentacles present or absent? Who could tell me? Walk me through this key. Anyone want to volunteer?
Jake.
All right, Jake, what would you say for number 1? Tentacles present or absent?
For
this.
For the shrimp?
Yeah.
Absent.
Absent. We're going to pretend we don't know it's a shrimp yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so tentacles absent, so now I have to go to 4. Is it a pair of giant claws or a pink body?
Big body.
Yes? Yes, it's a shrimp. All right, how about this one?
Crab.
Raise your hand. Follow through the key. Olivia, starting at 1, what do we choose?
Tentacles.
Tentacles absent. I go to 4. Then what, Olivia?
Giant.
Pair of giant claws. Yeah, this is a crab. All right, how about this thing? Sam, what do we do at 1?
Number 1.
Yep.
Tentacles absent.
No? It has tentacles.
Oh, those are tentacles?
Yep.
Oh, then. A.
Tentacles are present. We go to 2. Does it have 8 tentacles or more than 8?
More.
More. Go to 3. Do the tentacles hang down or are they upright?
Up.
Upright.
Yeah.
Yep. This is a C and A. So this is obviously very simple, and we already probably know what most of those animals are. But even if you didn't know anything about them, as long as you could follow these steps, you could figure out what they are. Here's another example, a little more complex. If we have 4 unknown birds, we want to know what species of bird they are, we can follow this key. So let's look at this top left bird. Okay, and our key has two choices, 1A and 1B. Is the beak very thin and the upper beak much larger than the bottom? Or is the beak relatively heavy, top and bottom are nearly equal in size? Sydney? Beak. Yeah, that's not a thin beak, it's a heavy beak. So in this case we have to go to 2. Is the lower beak smaller than the top beak? Or is the lower beak about as large or larger? What would you say, Vinny? Yeah, it's about as large. Go to set 3. The lower edge of the upper beak has a distinct bend, or the lower edge of the upper bill is mostly flat. So does it have a distinct bend here? Huh? Yeah, it's A. It does have that bend here. This is a Camarhynchus bird. So we followed the steps and it allowed us to go ahead and write that in to identify that. Even though you probably don't know anything about these birds, as long as you can look at them and you have the key, you can figure out what they are. Yeah. All right, let's go on. And this one's not so thing. So look at this bird. Top right. 1. Is a beak very thin? Upper beak much larger than the bottom? Or are they about equal in size?
Much larger.
The upper beak is much larger than the bottom?
No.
They're about the same.
About the same.
So we go to set 2.
Oh.
Is the lower beak smaller than the top beak? Or is it as large or larger? Yeah, I'd say it's as large or about equal. So I go to set 3. Is the lower edge of the upper beak have a distinct bend, or is it mostly flat? Mostly flat. Oh, shoot. This is a platyspiza finch. So I already gave you the third one, but again, you just follow the key. Again, how do we get Geospiza? Well, first, again, it's not very thin. The upper beak is not much larger than the bottom. It's relatively heavy. They're equal in size. I go to set 2. In this case, the lower beak is smaller than the top beak. This is Geospiza. And let's do this last one. Is the beak very thin? The upper beak is much larger than the lower beak? Yeah, you can hardly see even the lower beak. That is a Certhidea bird. So this key allows us to identify an unknown organism. That's what we use them for. Some of the rules, we always have 2 statements at each number. They have to be things that are clear. Also, we don't use words like big or small, like has a large beak or a small beak, because that's too subjective. And what one person thinks is a large beak, another person might not think. So we try to use things that are very clear. Maybe if you have a ruler, you could say beak is 3 centimeters long or less than 3. So you can be very clear. But counting things is usually a good thing to use because it's obvious. So we try to use things that are very clear. We have 2 statements for each of the numbers, and they either tell us to go to another set of numbers, or they give us the identity of that organism. All right, so I want you to get some practice here. So you're going to do this one in a minute. And so this is some made-up creatures. Norns belong to the genus Norno and can be divided into 8 species that are generally located in different regions of the world. You're going to use this dichotomous key. It's a little bit longer one. You're going to use this dichotomous key to help you to identify the scientific name for each of these. They're all the same genus, but you are going to determine the species. Before you get going on it, let's look at the first one. It's already done, but let's follow through the key to see how we got to this Norno beverless. So we start at number 1. No. So if we look at this first one, does it have pointed ears or rounded ears? Pointed. If you look at the very ends, they're pointy. This would be an example of rounded ears. These are pointy. So we go to 3. Do the ears point up or straight to the side, or do the ears point down?
A.
They point to the side. So we go to 5. Is it engaging in waving behavior? Not this one, it's not waving. Does not engage in waving behavior. Go to 6. Does it have hair on its head?
Yeah.
It does. This is norno-beverless. So we follow through the key until it gives us the species name. Some things, people have asked questions as they're working on this. Hair tufts on its ears are these little like hairs hanging down off of its ears. Like Mr. Akiri has those tufts of hair in his ears, kind of like that. So other than that, if you don't see a tail, they don't have one. So these don't have a tail. That one, obviously, those do. Okay? So I want you to follow through your key. Identify all the rest of these. Write in the scientific name for each of them after you've identified it. And then in a few minutes, we'll go over this and see if you got them right. No. Don't look, don't look.